So coming in at number 10, we have the WALKIE-TALKIE building in London. This building has turned out to be a pretty successful building in terms of its use as a commercial skyscraper, and has actually become, one of the more iconic skyscrapers in London. A lot of people like what it looks like, although that's certainly up for debate. The problem with it was that when it was built, one side of the building had such a strong reflection due to its concave shape that it was melting parts of cars, and there was even a TV reporter who cooked an egg using the reflection. The solution was pretty simple. They put a non-reflective film on that side of the building, and that was enough to limit the reflection to a point where it wasn't causing any more damage. An interesting side note about this project is that the architect involved was also working on a project in Las Vegas at the time called the Vdara Hotel. This project, too, featured unique concave sides and also had problems with the reflections being too strong and potentially causing damage that had to be fixed. Coming in at number 9, we have the Revel Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Construction started on this project in 2008, and at the time it was being billed as the project that would bring back Atlantic City. Atlantic City had been struggling with population loss and increasing crime, and this project was supposed to change that. Well, unfortunately, the project got going in 2008 and didn't make it very far before it started running into problems. By 2010, the project had come to a halt. That's when the state of New Jersey decided to get involved, providing hundreds of millions of dollars to keep it going. In 2014, the casino and hotel finally opened, but things didn't get much better. Shortly thereafter, it closed, and the company that ran it filed for bankruptcy. After that, the building that originally cost $2.4 billion to build was now only worth $450 million. When it finally sold, it didn't even come close to that, selling for $82 million. This story is looking like it might have a happy ending, though, because in 2017, the building was rehabbed and sold in 2018. Shortly thereafter, it reopened, and although 2020 was a difficult year for casinos and hotels, it has bounced back after being rebranded the Ocean Casino Hotel. For number 8, we're heading across the country to another casino, this one in Las Vegas, Nevada, known as the Mandalay Bay. The problems with this one were all during the construction process. While the building was being built, engineers noticed it was sinking, and not just sinking a little bit. At one point, it was sinking at a rate of half an inch per week. By the time they were able to fix it, the main portion of the tower sunk almost 17 inches. The rest of the building, some of the wings sunk significantly less, which actually was potentially even more of a problem because you had the building sinking at uneven rates. Ultimately, the solution was to drill 536 micropiles underneath the building to support it. Although this was a massive undertaking, it was definitely worth it, costing about $10 million, and it seems to have worked with no major structural problems since. Moving on to number 7, we have the Sunroad Centrum office building in San Diego, California. This building was a pretty standard office building. It went through the zoning and permitting processes, and everything was approved. When the project was nearing completion, however, that's when the problem started. The proximity to a nearby airport caused the FAA to get involved, telling the developers that their building was too tall and that it would need to be taken down. Not surprisingly, the developers were not happy to hear this. They said, our building has been approved. We went through all the permitting processes. This isn't our problem. But the FAA said, we don't really care what the city said. The city, it's your responsibility to make sure you're not violating any FAA regulations. After a serious legal battle, the developers had to take off the top floor of the building, which is not as easy as it sounds. Typically, the top floor of buildings are where a lot of the mechanical and electrical equipment is, so adjusting that is not an easy task. $40 million later, though, they completed this and the building opened, and I wouldn't go as far as to say everybody was happy, but they got it done. Coming in at number 6, we have the TOCKS Island Dam along the Delaware River. So starting as early as 1934, there were proposals to build a dam in this location. And the purpose was for flood control, but also to help provide water and electricity for the nearby cities of New York and Philadelphia. Planning really started to get serious in the 1960s when the government started to relocate people using eminent domain. About 4,000 families were removed as the planning for the dam progressed. Unfortunately, there were real concerns about the practicality of a dam in that location. Geologic surveys suggested that it really wasn't the best place to be building a reservoir that big, and ultimately the project was canceled. So you may be wondering why I included this job on this list of failures that weren't really failures, and that's because the area was designated as a protected wildlife area, the Delaware Water Gap, and that's one of the most scenic places on the East Coast now, and is protected and great for hiking and all that sort of thing. At number 5, we're headed back to London, where we have the London Millennium Footbridge, affectionately known as the Wibbly Wobbly by locals. When it was built, this bridge's claim to fame was being the lowest suspension bridge ever. This design, however, contributed to vibrations that made the bridge so unstable that it was difficult to walk across. As the bridge would start to bounce, people would subconsciously start synchronizing their steps as they walked across. This caused a negative feedback loop, which made the problem worse and worse and caused the vibration to get bigger and bigger. The bridge had to be shut down for 2 years, and about a $10 million fix was required to add dampers throughout the bridge to limit the vibration. But ultimately, this bridge reopened and has become one of the most iconic bridges in London, even was featured in one of the Harry Potter movies. Now we're starting to get into the interesting ones. At number 4, we have the Grand Castle Apartments, just outside of Grand Rapids, Michigan. From the beginning, this was a super controversial and polarizing project just because of the design of it. Looks like something that, would fit right in at a low-rent Disney World. The building really has been a success despite what people think of the aesthetics of it. It's relatively affordable with apartments starting under $1,000 a month, and it's gotten pretty good reviews on the online reviews. I think I saw 8.8 out of 10. So, regardless of what it looks like, it's definitely working out for some people. At number 3, we have a building that I'm sure every structural engineer watching this is familiar with, the Citicorp Center in New York, New York. The tower, almost 1,000 feet tall, has a really unique design in that it's essentially built on stilts to make way for a historic church that was just nearby the foot of it. So because this building is such a unique design where it's essentially built on stilts, it's more susceptible to quartering winds. When wind modeling's done, it's generally done with perpendicular winds because in most buildings, those are the ones that the building is most susceptible to. In this case, it's quartering winds coming from the angles that's, cause the biggest danger. Because of this, the building was much more susceptible and even potentially, subject to a collapse in strong quartering winds. In 1978, after the building had already been completed, an engineering student pointed this out, and which sent the stakeholders into a panic. To make matters worse, for cost savings, a last-minute change had been made to use bolted joints instead of welded joints. Although this saved time and money, it made the building more vulnerable. To make matters even worse, lower safety factors had been used than in the past. also to save time and money. So this all added up to a building that really was potentially in danger of collapsing in the right weather conditions, or the wrong weather conditions. So the building owners were forced with the decision. Do they let people know what was going on and potentially cause a panic? Or do they do what they ended up doing and make repairs under the cover of darkness without even telling the people doing the repairs exactly what they were doing and why they were doing it? It's said that less than 5 people actually knew the full extent of the danger. During the time that the repairs were being done, there was actually a hurricane that narrowly missed New York City, which really would have had the potential to be catastrophic for the area. But thankfully it missed and the repairs were completed. And the building since then has stood strong and hasn't had any structural problems since. And it's really one of the most iconic buildings in the New York skyline. At number 2, we have a building that I'm not even going to try to pronounce, but it's more frequently known as the Chicken Church. This was a building in Indonesia where a man felt like he had divine calling to build this poultry-shaped church. It's not actually poultry-shaped, but it's supposed to be a dove. The project, he really had some pretty respectable intentions. Besides building a church, he ran several charitable causes out of the building while it was under construction. Unfortunately, he ran out of money and in around the year 2000, and the building started to fall into disrepair. Lately, though, given the advent of social media and everybody trying to, go to some interesting, unique place, this has become one of those places that has become a destination for tourists, and that has, revitalized the church and what the guy is trying to do. It's open to people of all faiths and denominations of religions, and now it even has a cafe for hungry tourists. Finally, we're at number 1, and for number 1, I'm going with the Memphis Pyramid in Memphis, Tennessee. This project was intended to revitalize the entertainment industry in Memphis, Tennessee. It originally started out as it was going to be 3 pyramids, but it was dialed back to 1. The building opened in 1991, and there were really problems right from the get-go. There was plumbing and drainage problems, which led to regular flooding. And there was also major problems with the acoustics, given the strange shape of the building. The running joke was that you could get 2 concerts for the price of 1. When the city was attempting to lure an NBA team to play there, some people thought about using this venue as their home arena, but ultimately has decided that it wasn't suitable. And less than 15 years after the pyramid opened, a new $250 million bigger and better arena was built right down the street. A non-compete clause essentially sealed the fate for the time being of the pyramid, and it was essentially abandoned for about a decade. Lately, though, it's seen a renaissance. It's become a Bass Pro Shops megastore. The store is really ridiculous. It's got, indoor ponds and forests, and it's got a 100-room hotel built into the Bass Pro Shops, and it even has the tallest freestanding elevator in the world. It goes right from the bottom all the way up to the very point where there's an observation deck about 400 feet up. So there you have it. That's the top 10 failed projects that ended up kind of sort of working out. So like and subscribe and do all that kind of stuff. And like I said before, if you're interested in this kind of content, we have a lot more of it at development_fails on Instagram.